King Vortigern!
You've got some heat on you, Arthur. Your name keeps coming up.
The legend of King Arthur resonates through the ages. It's a name that sparks curiosity and wonder. But was he real or just another myth? Let's dive into the annals of history to uncover the archaeological evidence that seems to be connected to this legend that is passed down through generations. Some believe he was a mighty warrior, a unifier of Britain, while others assert he's but a figment of our collective storytelling. But what is the actual truth? This video holds many intriguing facts that will help you find an answer to this question. History. King Arthur, whose origins may be traced back to 6th and 7th century Welsh poetry, was initially portrayed as a courageous commander of the Britons against Saxon invaders. Geoffrey of Monmouth's History of the Kings of Britain from 1136 tells of a seemingly mythological king named Uther Pendragon, who, through the wizardry of Merlin, takes the shape of the duke's wife, Igerna, at her castle in Tintagel, giving birth to Arthur. Geoffrey's work is now regarded as pseudo-history, a synthesis of ancient Welsh legend and his creative imagination. Nonetheless, many people accepted this narrative during Arthur's day, and Richard, Earl of Cornwall, was so certain of Arthur's presence that he surrendered 3 priceless estates for this wind-swept headland and built a castle on it. It had no function, but he wanted to cement his place in folklore and history. King Arthur's charm has never faded. Following writers added their own modifications to Geoffrey's fundamental story, including the legendary sword Excalibur, the Knights of the Round Table, Arthur's complex romance with Queen Guinevere and Sir Lancelot, and his disastrous battle at Camlan. Over the years, these tales of chivalry, magic, and valor have been told in various variations, ranging from early Welsh poetry to T.H. White's The Once and Future King, from Sir Thomas Malory's Le Morte d'Arthur, to modern adaptations like the film The Green Knight. According to Leah Tether, a medieval studies professor, the Arthurian tale has something for everyone. It has flawed characters, impossible journeys, and a changeable narrative that connects with the socio-political condition of the period. Raluca Radulescu, a medieval literature professor, believes Arthur's continuing appeal is also linked to a moral integrity that is often sought after but rarely found in the world, a value discovered within King Arthur's legends. Despite the legend's ongoing appeal, one essential point remains unanswered. Was there ever a real King Arthur, or at least a historical character on which Geoffrey's hero was based? The mystery lingers, throwing doubt on the legend's truth and leaving us to consider the linked mysteries of history and imagination. The Tintagel Castle. Tintagel Castle, located on the Cornish coast, has long been connected with King Arthur. Several pieces of evidence have been discovered at Tintagel throughout the years, fueling the belief in the site's connection to the Arthurian tale. Though not conclusive proof of Arthur's existence, these discoveries have contributed to the persistent fascination with the possibility of a historical King Arthur. The archaeological digs performed by Wyn Scutt and his English heritage team have been significant in providing light on Tintagel's past. One significant discovery is the confirmation that the Tintagel village existed in the 6th century, which corresponds to the Arthurian era. Carbon dating, a process unknown to earlier historians such as Rollig Radford in the 1930s, gave this critical dating proof. Furthermore, the excavations have uncovered artifacts that point to Tintagel being an affluent and integrated society during the Dark Ages. Fragments of glass goblets from Spain, cups from Merovingian-era France, Tunisian ceramics, and Turkish amphorae used to store wine or olive oil suggest a vibrant trade network. This contradicts the traditional belief that Tintagel was a Celtic monastery and showed it was a busy local fortress. In addition, the excavations have found the remnants of multiple homes, some of which had robust wooden beams and even second levels. This contradicts the popular image of the Dark Ages in Britain, which is characterized by illiteracy and hardship. Instead, evidence shows that Tintagel was home to quite comfortable and sophisticated people, possibly numbering in the thousands. A 6th century stone slab with the inscription Artonu etched into it is one of the most enticing hints. While experts in Celtic language at the time discount its relevance, some speculate that it could be a variant of Arthur. This inscription adds another intriguing dimension to the Arthurian riddle, raising the probability that Tintagel was truly tied to a historical character who inspired the Arthurian legends. The excavations at Tintagel Castle have provided valuable evidence that challenges earlier assumptions about the site's history. The confirmation of its existence in the 6th century, the discovery of a thriving community engaged in trade, and the enigmatic inscription on the stone slab all contribute to the ongoing debate about the potential connection between Tintagel and King Arthur. While these findings do not conclusively prove the existence of Arthur, they certainly add depth to the legend. The Glastonberry Abbey. Glastonberry Abbey in Somerset, England, has become a location rich in history, religion, and mythology due to the traditions and myths surrounding it. Among these legends is the claim that King Arthur and his wife Guinevere were buried there. The story begins in 1191, when Glastonberry Abbey monks came across a surprise. They claim to have discovered the burial location of none other than King Arthur himself on the grounds of their abbey. According to their story, a Welsh or Breton bard revealed to King Henry II this long-kept secret. The abbot ordered an excavation in response to this revelation, and what they discovered added layers to the Arthurian legend. The monks discovered a stone slab with a big leaden cross on its underside 7 feet beneath the surface. The inscription on this cross reads, Hic iacet sepultus in Clitus Rex Arturius in Insula Avalonia, which means, here sleeps the famed King Arthur in Avalon. This finding was astounding, and it sent shockwaves across medieval England. They dug 9 feet deeper into the dirt as the dig progressed, finding a rudimentary coffin built from a hollowed-out log. Inside were the bones of a tall guy, and his skull was fractured. Smaller bones and a lock of fair hair were discovered among these remains, which they decided were the remains of Guinevere, King Arthur's queen. The monks interred both sets of bones in a massive tomb within their church, transforming Glastonberry Abbey into a pilgrimage site. However, skepticism quickly enveloped this astonishing discovery. Historians hypothesized that the monks' assertion was a brilliant trick to attract more pilgrims and earn funds for the abbey's rebuilding. The abbey had recently suffered a severe fire, and financial assistance was critical for its rehabilitation. Another probable motivation was to appease King Henry II by disproving the residual Welsh legends of Arthur's return. Another component of the investigation was reassessing the alleged location of King Arthur's burial. After the abbey's collapse in 1539, the skeleton bones and written crucifix vanished. During excavations in the 1950s and 1960s, archaeologist Rolig Radford claimed to have discovered the original burial location, but the connection to King Arthur seemed dubious. The evaluation of Radford's excavation records revealed that the site was most likely a burial pit dating between the 11th and 15th centuries, rather than the legendary king's final resting place. Furthermore, research into the 12th century Abbey Church revealed intentional efforts by the monks to improve the site's historic reputation. The monks utilized antique and retroactive architectural aspects when rebuilding the church following a terrible fire in 1184 to create the idea of greater antiquity. But one issue remained. Whose bones did the monks discover? During the English Reformation, King Henry VIII took control of the monastery in 1539. The tomb, as well as the bones, were demolished. The leaden cross, an important piece of evidence, was lost in the 18th century, ruling out any possibility of carbon dating. Despite these obstacles, recent studies of the cross's inscription pointed to a date no later than the 11th century, a century before the monks claimed discovery. Some experts believe the cross was made in the 11th century, during a period of major shift in burial practices in England. Sacred church grounds came to supplant family plots as the favored burial destination for kings and the aristocracy throughout this time period. Monoliths bearing ancestral names were frequently placed over these tombs. Geoffrey Ashe, a well-known Arthurian researcher, speculated that the cross could be older than 9th century. After the 7th century, the ancient spelling of Arturius found on the cross had fallen out of usage. He hypothesized that this cross, rather than the conventional monolith found in other burials, could have acted as Arthur's monument. The rise of the terrain about the 10th century would explain why the cross was eventually buried underneath. Furthermore, the absence of a rival Arthurian funeral site from the Welsh, who had their own traditions of Arthur's prolonged existence, adds another degree of intrigue to the situation. It implies that a pre-existing tradition tied Glastonbury to Arthur, which the monks simply confirmed with their proclamation. Glastonbury Tor appears as a strong option for an Arthurian burial site. Its historical and geographical background corresponds to Arthurian legends about his death and burial on an island, and contemporary sources also refer to Glastonbury as an island during this time period. If a historical Arthur existed and fought the legendary battles attributed to him, Glastonbury Tor's status as a significant burial ground in the region at the right time makes it a plausible final resting place for the once and future king. These myths have aided the abbey's significance and prosperity over the ages, but they have also been treated with skepticism, as they were widely viewed as fabrications by medieval monks to attract pilgrims and money. Archaeologist Roberta Gilchrist embarked on a multi-year endeavor to re-examine the history of Glastonbury Abbey, with the goal of distinguishing fact from myth and uncovering the true archaeological evidence. The Glastonbury Abbey project centered on re-examining data from previous excavations, as well as doing new radiocarbon dating and chemical composition analyses on previously excavated artifacts. Their discoveries shed light on Glastonbury Abbey's lengthy and complex history, including indications of Roman and Saxon involvement prior to the abbey's foundation. One notable discovery was related to the site's glass manufacture. The glass-producing furnaces were discovered to be significantly older than previously assumed, dating back over 3 years before the construction of the first stone churches about 700 AD. This discovery implies that Glastonbury had one of the first and largest glass manufacturing complexes in Saxon England. The Cadbury Castle, Cadbury Fortress located near Wincanton in South Somerset, has long been associated with the legendary King Arthur and his mythical fortress Camelot. While experts argue the historical existence of King Arthur, folklore and stories surrounding this location have lasted for generations, leading many to assume that Cadbury Castle may provide clues to the Arthurian legend. Archaeological findings and historical records have fueled speculation that Cadbury Castle was the site of King Arthur's Camelot. The hill itself has a long history, dating back to the Stone Age and serving as a military stronghold for almost 4 millennia. While most modern historians regard King Arthur as a fiction rather than a historical figure, some believe he was a real historical figure, possibly a Roman-affiliated military leader. The archaeological survey of Cadbury Castle in the late 1960s was a crucial piece of evidence establishing the Arthurian connection. This examination indicated that the Iron Age hill fort was heavily reinforced during the 6th century, which corresponds to the time when King Arthur is thought to have lived and reigned. These fortifications show that there was a strong military presence and activity throughout that time period. Furthermore, the finding on the site of the foundations of a large timbered hall raises intriguing concerns concerning its purpose. The discovery of what seems to be a church adds to the mystery. These structures represent a significant location, possibly a royal or noble palace. If King Arthur was a real figure, a fortified hill with such fortifications would be consistent with the idea of Camelot as a royal residence and center of power. Cadbury Castle's proximity to Glastonbury Tor, which is sometimes identified with the Arthurian Isle of Avalon, lends another supporting point to the Arthurian connection. The pinnacle of Cadbury Castle offers amazing views over Somerset, including a clear view of Glastonbury Tor. This geographical connection supports speculation that these locations are linked to Arthurian legend. The legend is also influenced by local place names and features. Some believe that nearby communities like West Camel and Queen Camel, as well as the River Cam, get their names from Camelot. These linguistic echoes suggest that Arthurian stories continue to have an impact on the region's culture and nomenclature. Cadbury Castle's Arthurian connections are bolstered by tradition. According to mythology, King Arthur and his knights are resting within the apparently hollow hill fort, waiting for the day when England may require their services once more. Various tales hold that King Arthur returns on Midsummer's Eve, leading a host of mounted knights down the hill. These timeless stories have maintained the link between Cadbury Castle and King Arthur alive in the local imagination. While the historical accuracy of King Arthur's existence is still debated, the wealth of archaeological and folkloric evidence associated with Cadbury Castle makes it an enthralling destination for those who believe in the enduring legend. The Winchester Castle, an English ancient fortification that has a remarkable but indirect connection to the King Arthur legend. While there is no tangible historical evidence linking the castle to King Arthur, the location of the Winchester Round Table within its Great Hall gave it prominence. This enormous wooden disc carved with the names of knights, including King Arthur, functioned as an Arthurian legend icon. It is thought to have been commissioned during King Edward I's reign, showing the medieval infatuation with King Arthur. The Round Table is fundamental to Arthurian legends. It is a vast circular table around which Arthur and his knights gather, symbolizing equality and togetherness. No one knight, not even Arthur, was more prominent than another, reflecting the chivalric code to which these knights aspired. The Winchester Round Table bears the names of 24 knights, presumably those who were King Arthur's closest companions in the legends. However, these names have attracted interest and curiosity, as several of Arthurian legends' more well-known figures are notably absent. Among the knights on the table are Sir Gawain, Sir Lancelot, Sir Galahad, Sir Percival, Sir Lionel, and Sir Tristram. It's worth noting that the presence of certain names, such as Sir Lancelot, shows a link to later Arthurian stories rather than earlier Celtic customs. The process for selecting these names is still unknown and has sparked significant discussion. The characters appear to be drawn from a variety of sources, ranging from historical documents to poetic romances that evolved over several centuries. This blending of Celtic, French, and English traditions provides an intriguing glimpse into how the Arthurian legend was understood during the medieval period. The names on the Winchester Round Table continue to attract historians and enthusiasts, serving as a captivating entry point into the rich and varied world of Arthurian mythology. Their presence on the table creates a complicated situation that blends history, myth, literature, and political symbols. Now it's time for our subscribers' pick. Scientists finally found the body of King Arthur in this cave. Covered in elite armor from head to toe and lying with the grace of a knight, this surely seems to be the grave of a great warrior like King Arthur. This cave, located in Herefordshire in England, is sure to reveal many more secrets. If this really is King Arthur's final resting place, does this discovery mean all those legends and tales were true and not based on myth? Are we to believe all the legends, or is there still a percentage of myth mixed with the truth? Let us know in the comments below. The physical description of the Winchester Round Table. The Winchester Round Table, situated in Winchester Castle's Great Hall, is an imposing artifact that quickly draws the attention of people who see it. Its massive scale, measuring 5.5 meters in diameter and weighing around 1,200 kilograms, symbolizes its historical and legendary significance. The table, made of English oak, is an outstanding specimen of medieval woodworking. Its surface is embellished with a black and white motif that is delicately painted to display the names of the knights around the edge. During the Tudor makeover, a picture of King Arthur was painted to resemble Henry VIII. The table's visual intricacy is increased by alternating patterns of floral and geometrical designs between the labeled portions. The Tudor rose, which is prominently shown in various sections, represents the unification of the houses of Lancaster and York. The physical appearance of the table is filled with political symbolism, historical links, and cultural implications. Its design conveys a story not only of Arthurian mythology, but also of the eras in which it was developed and altered. The Winchester Round Table is a physical link to the medieval era, its myths and realities. The history of the Winchester Table. Despite its association with King Arthur mythology, the Winchester Round Table has more modern historical beginnings. It is thought to have been commissioned during the time of King Edward I, a ruler known for his obsession with Arthurian legends in the late 13th century. His fascination with King Arthur was not just a romanticized idealization, it also served a political purpose. Associating his reign with the legendary Arthur provided an aura of nobility and divine purpose during national unification and expansion. The table could have been designed for a tournament or a feast commemorating the Arthurian legend, assisting Edward in aligning himself with the beloved king. During the Tudor period, the design of the table experienced substantial changes. The table was painted by King Henry VIII with a Tudor rose and a picture of Arthur that resembles Henry himself. This act further linked the monarchy to ancient legends, supporting the concept of continuity and divine authority. While the Winchester Round Table is not an Arthurian relic, its historical beginnings provide fascinating insights into medieval politics and culture. It exemplifies the enduring power of myth and how it may be used for practical, everyday reasons. The repainting of the Winchester Round Table is also an important historical event that adds layers of symbolism and political intent. This development occurred during King Henry VIII's reign in the early 16th century. During the period, the Tudor dynasty strove to establish legitimacy by establishing a straight genealogy to the famous King Arthur. By linking themselves with legends from the past, the Tudors hoped to emphasize their divine right to reign. As part of this attempt, Henry VIII had the Round Table repainted in Tudor colors. The newly painted table featured the Tudor rose, the dynasty's symbolic symbol connecting the houses of Lancaster and York. In the center, King Arthur's figure has been redesigned to resemble Henry VIII, emphasizing the Tudors' connection to the mythical British king. The repainting was not only an artistic endeavor, but also a profoundly significant effort representing Tudor England's intellectual environment. It was a visual statement that linked myth, history, and royal propaganda. The repainted Winchester Round Table is a vivid example of how legends may be changed and recycled to suit the political narratives of the day. Surprisingly, the table had holes sealed with cork, indicating damage from gunshots. Cromwellian soldiers are said to have fired at the table in 1645, focusing their fire on King Arthur's face and the center. The Round Table was rehung in 1980 after intensive research, becoming a symbol of a unique historical inheritance. While it did not exist during King Arthur's reign, it is a concrete witness to the ongoing appeal of the King Arthur legend and his Knights of the Round Table. The Sutton Who Helmet. The Sutton Who Helmet, discovered in 1939 in Suffolk, England, is an extraordinary Anglo-Saxon archaeological find with profound implications for our knowledge of the time when the legendary King Arthur is claimed to have lived. This renowned artifact, along with other gems discovered in the ship burial, provides priceless insights into the era's socio-political, religious, and cultural context. The examination of the Sutton Hoo helmet and its elaborate decorations allows historians and archaeologists to acquire a better understanding of the civilization that influenced the Arthurian legends. The presence of a dominant elite in Anglo-Saxon civilization is indicated by the occurrence of such a sumptuous burial as Sutton Hoo. With its intricate ornamentation and craftsmanship, the helmet would have been a sign of authority and power. It is thought to have belonged to a monarch or a high-ranking warrior, implying a hierarchical society in which leaders and warriors wield enormous power. This corresponds to the depiction of King Arthur as a great leader surrounded by faithful knights, each with their own jobs and responsibilities inside the realm. The design of the Sutton Hoo helmet, which includes a face mask, mustache, and brows, is evocative of earlier Roman cavalry helmets. This implies that, while the Anglo-Saxons had a distinct identity, they were impacted by the vestiges of the Roman Empire in Britain. King Arthur's stories frequently show a kingdom where Roman and local British traditions coexist, reflecting the transitional period between Roman Britain's demise and the establishment of Anglo-Saxon rule. The ornaments on the helmet are not only aesthetic, they have deep symbolic implications. The boar motif, for example, is important in Germanic and Norse mythology. Boars were emblems of power, bravery, and protection. The boar, in the setting of King Arthur, can be compared to the quest for the Holy Grail, a symbol of heavenly grace and protection. The Holy Grail meant spiritual safety and salvation for Arthur and his knights, just as the boar on the Sutton Hoo helmet represented physical protection for its user. The appearance of interconnected creatures on the helmet also alludes to the Anglo-Saxons' animistic beliefs, in which animals and nature were profoundly intertwined with the spiritual world. This is consistent with Arthurian traditions, in which animals such as the White Hart or the Questing Beast frequently appear as omens or guides, leading knights on quests or signaling key events. The Sutton Who Helmet's artistry reflects a civilization with advanced metallurgical skills and a keen aesthetic sense. The usage of varied materials, including iron, tinned bronze, and gold, demonstrates trade networks and mastery of multiple metalworking techniques. This corresponds to the Arthurian world, in which knights traveled to faraway regions, encountering new civilizations and returning with wealth. The elaborate embellishments on the helmet, such as the interlaced patterns and stylized animal motifs, are typical of insular art, an Anglo-Saxon artistic style. This style, a combination of native British and imported Irish and Germanic components, reflects the period's melting pot of civilizations. Similarly, the myth of King Arthur, with its blend of Celtic, Roman, and Germanic elements, exemplifies the cultural fusion that defined Britain's early medieval period. As a piece of military equipment, the Sutton Hoo helmet sheds light on the militaristic nature of Anglo-Saxon civilization. The helmet was not only for protection, it was also a prestige symbol, showing the wearer's fighting ability and valor. The Arthurian legends, which feature battles, tournaments, and individual combats, reflect this martial culture. With his sword Excalibur and his knights, each with their own weapons and shields, King Arthur embodied the warrior spirit of the day. Furthermore, though more fully developed in later medieval periods, the concept of chivalry has its roots in the Anglo-Saxon warrior code. The regal look of the Sutton Hoo helmet shows that the warrior wearing it was bound by a code of honor and duty, similar to the chivalric code that led Arthur and his knights. Hence, the Sutton Hoo helmet is an important archaeological find that gives information on the socio-political, theological, and cultural background of the Anglo-Saxon period, which is strongly associated with King Arthur's stories. King Arthur's Stone. The fabled King Arthur, the mythical monarch of Camelot, has been the focus of numerous historical and legendary stories. Among these tales, one puzzling relic has sparked the interest of scientists and the general public alike. Arthur's Stone, a Neolithic burial in England's West Midlands, was discovered. While myths have spun magical narratives around this ancient site, a groundbreaking archaeological investigation began to unearth Arthur's Stone's true past. According to tradition, Arthur, who was always a renowned figure, once got a pebble in his shoe while marching to fight. The pebble allegedly grew in size after being discarded, a testament to its pride at being touched by the famed king. Another story tells of a battle between Arthur and a giant whose enormous fall left massive impressions on the earth, which some believe are connected to the monument. However, the significance of Arthur's Stone goes far beyond these legends. Archaeologists and historians have been surprised by the 5,000-year-old monuments. While the fabled King Arthur's remains are unlikely to be discovered, the excavation's principal purpose is to provide information on the Neolithic Britons who built and utilized this chambered tomb. Recent finds have called into question previous beliefs, suggesting that Arthur's Stone did not, as previously thought, form part of a wedge-shaped stone cairn. Some believe it to be a monument of an entirely different kind. Only the inner chamber of Arthur's Stone exists today, which is made up of 9 upright stones capped by a massive capstone weighing over 25 tons. Previous excavations outside the monument revealed that it extended into the neighboring field to the south and was built in 2 stages. It began as a long mound pointing southwest, enclosed by wooden posts. Following the collapse of the mound, the Neolithic people reconstructed it with a bigger avenue of posts, 2 rock chambers, and an upright stone, this time facing southeast. It is also believed that the Arthur's Stone, along with 2 adjoining halls of the dead, may have formed a complex where people met for meetings, feasts, and numerous rituals, a place of long-lasting significance. Excavations at nearby sites have turned up partial human remains, flint flakes, arrowheads, and pottery, hinting at the cultural and ceremonial activities that may have occurred. Scholars continue to doubt the existence of King Arthur. In the 5th and 6th centuries CE, historical records reveal the presence of a leader named Arthur, who battled Saxon and Jutish invaders. A skilled warlord is also mentioned in certain Welsh tales. However, in 1138, Geoffrey of Monmouth's history of the kings of Britain began to construct the Arthur of legend that we know today. Arthurian stories spread widely throughout the 12th and 13th centuries, thanks to texts and oral storytelling. While earlier versions emphasized Arthur's fighting prowess and nation-building abilities, later versions became part of the medieval romance tradition, longing for a time of morality, chivalry, and righteousness. Before the 13th century, Arthur's stone was associated with the mythical monarch. Its popularity lasted decades, with even King Charles I staying nearby during the English Civil Wars in the 17th century. Today, this historic structure sits as an enticing enigma, ready to be solved. Julian Thomas and his colleagues hope to restore it to its rightful place in the history of Neolithic Britain. The full history of Arthur's stone may finally emerge from the mists of time as the excavation progresses, providing a deeper knowledge of this fabled king and the people who lived with him in the distant past. Thanks for watching. See you in our next video.